Good morning, and welcome to the Financial Pillars All About the Money podcast, presented by Our Neutral Voices Media. Our show is all about helping our audience understand money, mindsets, and tap into the economic knowledge that builds financially secure individuals, families, and communities. So whether you're tuning into our show to learn about budgeting, building credit, investing, or starting your own business, we're here to break down the knowledge in a real and relatable way. Before we get started this morning, JJ, you want to take us in with a little prayer?
Sure, let us bow our heads. Lord, thank you for allowing us to wake up and be a part of another wonderful day. Lord, please provide us with the wisdom and knowledge that we can reach our viewers and our listeners, and please bless those that are here watching and listening. These are the blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. So for a few introductions here, I'm Ryan Leopard, private banker, Star Financial Bank.
JJ Foster, loan originator, Lake City Bank.
And I'm Ben, branch manager, Flagstaff Bank.
So today's topic, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about, for our younger folks out there listening, they got tough choices to make after school, like where they want to go with their lives, careers, whether it's college, whatever that may be. Let's kind of start off with college. Is it the natural, progression after high school? Is it something that's a necessity for our youth nowadays? JJ, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, in today's world, it is definitely something that you want to look at and be a little more intentional. I know there was a certain time period when that's what you did. You go to high school and everybody promoted college. The idea of me looking at other alternatives actually started, with me working after school programs and working with young people. And I realized that, college isn't for everybody, and there are other alternatives that are out there. Now I'm in the banking world, in the lending institution. It opened my eyes even further because I see so many people that are, saddled with debt off of, they may have started college and stopped, or they changed, their career path or what they wanted to study. So now they have this debt sitting there, then they come and they walk into our doors, and it's like, hey, can you guys loan me some money? And we want to look at it. So then you pull their credit and you find out they've got student loans that are sitting there. And then folks aren't really thinking about it because they're in a forbearance or they're deferred. And it's like, well, hey, I don't have to pay. But when you walk into the doors of a lending institution, they are going to utilize a certain amount of money. They're going to, even if you're not paying, there's going to be a percent that they're going to take out of that, and it's going to count against your debt to income.
Gotcha. And with your background, did you go to college after high school?
I did, and I was blessed enough to get a college scholarship, and and I say blessed to get it because again, in the role that I have now, when people are coming and they have to navigate getting kids into college and how much it's going to cost, it was something issues that I didn't have to deal with, and the same thing as far as when I got back to Fort Wayne, my first job that I ever had, I mean, my money. It was my money. Mm-hmm. And again, if I walked into a door, I wouldn't straddle with that debt.
Yeah, you had the luxury of not being able to have to worry about paying back that debt there.
Yes, sir.
But let's take, obviously the athletic scholarship helped you to go to college, but knowing what you know now, having gone through that experience, take the athletic scholarship off the table. Would you go to college knowing that there could be expenses afterwards for it, like just with the life experiences, the education you got?
Yeah, and that's funny. I appreciate that question because I always thought to myself, because I know me, I was on somebody else's dime. So when you go to college and they said the professor in there after so many minutes or whatnot, you can leave classes over. There'd be kids jumping up, running out the door. I was one of them because I was on somebody else's dime. If I'm paying for it, you know what I did? I've been looking for that professor. Like, hey, you get your butt in here. You teach me. You're on my dime. I think I would have, utilized the opportunity and would have probably, when I say applied myself, I know it's going to sound bad, mm-hmm. but I would apply myself more because I know my older brother listed. I went through college, and again, you talking 3.0 student. But as far as really applying myself and I did what I needed to do, get my grades, get out, and be a college graduate. Mm-hmm. If I was on somebody else's dime, I think I'd have put a little more effort into it and got the max out of it.
Gotcha. Ben, how about you? What's your feelings on school, and what was kind of your background with school?
Yeah, I think education is very important. It just depends with what one's career ambitions are. So It is good to go to school. I think it expands your horizon in terms of thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, understanding of ability to navigate careers, being able to pursue a career with and using education as a competitive advantage to be promoted. But the key thing here also would be the skills one is getting from education. Is this something that can also be acquired through experience, through work? So it is important for one to really reflect on what they want to study, why they want to study it, how it means to them, and really also assess, do they have those skills already before even going to school? Because, for instance, if I'm going to school to learn maybe communication or something, is this something that I can easily learn through applying experience at work? Or marketing, is this something that I can learn through applying internship or just going to work and working at an entry level job and learning marketing, or really taking a lesser degree like a certificate to do that? My background, I did a certificate in communications and a bachelor's in economics, public policy. And when I wanted to go to school first, I was torn between business and communications. I started with communication first at a certificate level as a 1-year entry, and I wanted to really just learn the skills about writing, speech, and just see if this is something I wanted to pursue. After a year, it wasn't something that I really wanted to get at a degree level. I felt I had the skills already, or it's something that I can develop on my own. And I decided to go and pursue a bachelor's in economics. My bachelor's, when I was going for my bachelor's, I was a working adult. So I was pretty much working and taking evening classes and online classes. So I never really got to utilize, never had the campus experience, but the key thing is I learned and I worked, and I also used tuition reimbursements. So at the time I worked for Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo had tuition reimbursements. So I used those. The key thing is I had to pay it up front, but at the end of the semester, if I had C and above, I got it refunded back to me. Okay. And so that allowed me to graduate with a lesser bill, if I would say. I had most of my tuition paid up front. I think my student loans are very minimal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you knew heading into college what you wanted to major, like what you wanted to do, right?
Yes.
An idea?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, study, I should say, not necessarily what you want to do after that, but what you want to study.
Yeah. So I pretty much started on in banking 14 years ago. And so when I started, I really wanted to be in wealth management. Mm-hmm. And so I really got to apply to work as a private banker. And I really thought, well, you know what, if I had an economics degree, this will give me a competitive advantage, maybe becoming a fund manager or something, but also maybe heading a retail bank or taking some leadership role in banking. So I used that path of economics to learn banking, to learn how the market works, things of that nature. Also in line, I started really looking at some certifications that I can obtain to really give myself an advantage and also learn further. So I got my security licenses, and that helped me navigate myself through work. And so I use that in a relatable way of saying I took some time to reflect. Had I pursued a bachelor's in communications, most likely I would have ended up with a bigger bill, and I would have learned a skill that necessarily I would have learned a skill that I could have used experience to learn. Economics gave me more of a good understanding of how the market works, managing resources. It gave me an understanding of banking, and I was able to use that to also leverage myself to get promoted.
Nice.
Yeah.
JJ, when you went to school, you told us what you majored in, but did you know what you wanted to do when you went to school, or was it, I'm going on an athletic scholarship, I'm a basketball player, I just have to pick something?
No, man, I'm telling you, it's funny. You're getting down there at me, but no, my grandfather was a doctor. I was groomed to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. I took, some pre-med stuff all through high school, and my first school that I originally verbal to, they had a pre-med program, and I was enrolled in that pre-med program. And when I originally signed, school came in last second, Coastal Carolina. They didn't have pre-med. And I kind of was like, I didn't know really what I wanted to do. They didn't have pre-med, and I wasn't going to just take straight biology, which everybody said, I should have. I went business administration, and I minored in psychology. So I just kind of really, to Ben's point, I just looked at business administration, business management, get in there, just kind of learn different aspects and things that I thought I could use, down the line.
And judging by me knowing what both of you do professionally now and what you told me that you went to school for, is you're using your degree to a
Correct.
point, right? The things that you learned there, you're utilizing it.
Yeah,
as well, right?
after 50 years.
After 50 years.
Yeah, it took me a minute, but yes.
Yeah. So just myself, graduating college is the natural progression was going to college. I don't come from a college family. My parents didn't go to college or anything like that, but just kind of like what they told you in school you should do. I went to IPFW, now PFW, here for 2 years, and just, unlike you gentlemen, I didn't have a direction, just kind of spun my wheels, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think that's the biggest thing to kind of maybe take away from this conversation for young folks deciding on whether they should go to school or not. My advice would be, if you don't know what you want to do, maybe it's not the right direction, because you are going to spin your wheels going to school, racking up that debt, maybe not knowing what you want to do, settling on something. And I would assume that most people that are graduate with a degree that aren't using it probably were in the same boat. They were just going to go to school and had to settle on something, and then realized, I don't like what I went to school for. I don't like what I paid to have this degree. I want to do something different. In that situation, was school really the right situation for them? Right. So going back, I think that would probably be the advice I would give to young folks nowadays is, do you know what you want to do, and do you have a direction? You probably need to figure that out before you decide whether it's going to school now, or maybe holding off a year or two and figuring out what you want to do, and then maybe going to school.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think, the key in choosing something, do you know your career? If choosing something, are you looking for money? Are you looking for work-life balance? Are you, just looking for something that it's got to be something that you enjoy? And that's what I can honestly say. I've always said I don't ever feel like I've ever had a job. I've always, again, been dealing with folks, with people, and as I navigate throughout the community and things, it's always been stuff that I enjoy doing. And people always talk, even right now, the different hats that I wear. I kind of laugh because I'm like, okay, they might be different hats as far as organizations and somebody that I'm working with, but the bottom line, the one common denominator is people. They're all dealing with people, and that's something that I'm comfortable with. I choose to do. I love being in this community and having some say so, and knowing folks from this side of the tracks and folks from this side of the tracks, and being able to walk in the doors and things of that nature. So that is something that again gives me comfort and joy, versus getting something that I know people that went to law school and put in all that time and get off into it and realize, man, this isn't really what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Now you think about that, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in my situation, I didn't have an athletic scholarship. I was on to your point, somebody else's dime. I was on my parents' dime, and my priorities were not school. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. My priorities were, I was working full time. I moved out of the house. I was living on my own, taking care of myself. So one day I had a conversation with my parents about, look, I'm just wasting your money at this point in time. At least I was conscious enough to understand that, like, I'm not going to class like I should be going. I'm not putting the effort I should be doing. I feel I'm wasting your money. So I'm not going to go back and do that any longer. Sure. To your point about knowing people, career-wise, that's where I found the advantage is relationships that you build. Pretty much every job until this one that I have now that I've ever had, which has not been a lot because I've been there for a long, lengthy period of time, has been through a relationship, because somebody, referral, somebody that's already at the job, or their management, or somebody that knows you and knows your work ethic and recruiting you to come over. So thankfully, while I did have the college experience, career-wise, it came from relationships I built outside of there, not really from that.
Yeah. Oh, you got something?
Yeah. So the only something, if there's anything I can also add to, would be for a kid who's thinking about going to school, really analyzing and researching a lot, and if they can get a mentor, really who is working in a field that they're aspiring to, connect with them. Because I remember in college, I've seen perpetual students where people change majors every year. They're like, I'm doing psychology. I don't like it anymore. I'm now studying sociology. And then they switch from there to, and there are people who graduated with a bachelor's degree at the end where their bill just became so much, their student loan became so much because they changed majors to a point where by the time they got their bachelor's degree, they've been through 2, 3, 4 majors. And I think it's very common than we think. A lot of kids go to college just because they graduated high school. Some don't have the good career path. They just pursue something because they think it will be good, only to study it and either figure out maybe the course outline is difficult or they are not enjoying the class anymore and they switch to something else. And so if I could advise like my younger self or my younger brother or somebody who's going to school, I'd say, look up the course outline first. Like go in and if you're thinking about pursuing a bachelor's in nursing, pull up the course outline first. Look at the courses. Is that something that you really enjoy? Because you're studying something that you're going to be practicing later on. Figure out who you can talk to as a nurse to really see and, take them out for coffee and figure out or just talk with them on or even YouTube. There are vlogs where people talk about their career paths and things. Talk to them and, research and see how's their day life like. What does it take to be a nurse? What is their day routine like? What is the work-life balance aspect? That way, the moment one is going to school, they already know what they're going for and they're committed. Because I think also, if you're going to school, you could also be in the right major, but if you don't have the right motivation or if you're not enjoying what you're studying, then you're not as passionate as you are and you're not the best student as you can be. One may not have a drive that they would have to really be their best because they're not motivated on the why they're in school in the first place. So I think some preliminary work would help anyone trying to go to school.
And I think that advice would help with stats because thinking about this conversation, looked up some stats there. It said like 20% of those college students don't return for their second year.
Yeah.
Right? Seems like a huge number. My guess is, I returned for my second year, so I wouldn't fall into that, but I knew after my second year it wasn't.
Yeah.
These people knew after the first year, this isn't for me, for whatever the reason may be, but they still incurred that expense after that first year. Or maybe they took a little bit more time to kind of think about it. And once again, like I said, going back to the advice, like if you don't have a direction, know what you want to study, maybe take some time to do that, get some real life world experience working, maybe figure that out. You're young, you always have time to go.
That's
It doesn't
true.
have to be immediately after school.
That's true.
Kind of finish up on the college aspect of that conversation. The one thing I do have an issue with is a lot of those people out there that never went to college, but yet they've had a successful career, they've made money, and they're out there telling you don't need college, right? There's no promoting of it. It's just I've made it, you can make it, you don't have to do that. I don't think those people are necessarily the norm. When you got millionaires that didn't go to college and started their own business, there was something different about them that didn't need it. But that doesn't mean that, for what I like about college is I think it gives you the ability to learn how to think, right? They're teaching you how to think, like how to problem solve. I always relate it back to like when you're in school and middle school and algebra. How often do any of us use algebra in today's world, right? Day to day? No. And when you're in school, you're like, I don't need this. When am I ever going to use this? This is what my parents told me. But when you're really thinking about it, it's not the algebra you use. It's the problem solving skills that you're getting from the education that they're teaching you. Right. So I still think that, my kids, I would love to see them go to college. If they don't, there's other avenues for them. If it's not the right thing, my 20-year-old, college wasn't the best thing for him. He wasn't great in school. Learning a trade, learning something else could probably be more beneficial. My two little ones seem to enjoy school. They seem to be very good at it. Absolutely, I'm going to promote college after that, just for that life experience and education that you need, because you always have that in the back pocket, right, when searching in the job world. So college isn't, necessarily your path. What other options do we have out there? What's the bigger avenues in today's world for kids?
The first thing that jumps out is skills trades. I mean, there is a shortage in skilled trades. And I don't care if you can look up the top jobs in today's society right now, top paying jobs, skilled trade is going to be there. You look up top jobs that don't need a degree, skilled trade is going to be there. And as I've said, to you guys, offset, I mean, we all are homeowners and we know all the different aspects and things that can go wrong with a house, things that are needed with a house. If you're building a home, they need electricians. We need HVAC, plumbers, all these things. And with the promotion of, as we're talking, college, and people thinking you need to go there, nobody wants to do a blue collar job. And there's nothing, and like I said, every time I pay a bill, just somebody come out to your house and can check and say, hey, yeah, it's just this switch, but $90. I mean, you think about that. And that's something that I think young people need to understand. And it actually, too, is a thing that kind of disappoints me in the school system where we got away from, shop class and things of that nature. But I think they should have those opportunities. If, the earlier you can start ingraining that into young people, I mean, I think the better off we will be.
And I think in our local community here, we're seeing more of that with the recognition from the high schools, that we need to start teaching more of that, because we're not expecting not everybody's going to go to college after, high school's over with. With that. But when looking up also the top 3 careers in 2026 and going forward, healthcare department, right? Nurse practitioners, things like that. To your point, most of these high-paying jobs are going to require college education, right? Number 2 was technology, like specifically AI technology. We're moving away from like the basic computer coding and stuff like that, because AI can do that stuff for us. But we need more complex technology skills and labor out there, which college, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, skilled labor and trades. To your point, it might be number 3, but it's number 1 for those that don't have, that college is not the option for them. Those skilled labors. My 20-year-old said, we had this conversation with it. He took a job, just moved to West Virginia with his job, and he's doing basic laying wire, like in the Google plants, these big data centers they're building. That's what his job does. But that's not necessarily skilled. That's a labor position.
Correct.
Talking about being an actual electrician, right? Do this now, you're making some money, but think long-term wise, you need to look at becoming an electrician, get a journeyman, something like that, if you like doing this type of job, because that's the long-term sustainability. Once you have that skill and that trade, you can go anywhere you want. If you don't like the current job, your company you're with, you can go to another one. There's always somebody hiring you. And if you want to start your own business, you have the skilled labor to go do that, right? That's something that will stick with you forever. So,
And I think also, let's talk about perception. Because there are people who are pressured to go to school because I think one is perceived to be smart when they say, oh, I have this degree. And a lot of kids just go to school because they want to please their parents. There could be peer pressure coming from home or friends or just society, where somebody says, well, I'm going to go pursue a bachelor's degree. And immediately as they're done with that, they're in grad school and they're pursuing their doctorate, without any life experience, where you're looking at real life work experience. So I'm really big on, especially if you're not in a skill, if you're not in an educational field that requires specific skills like the ones you mentioned, really looking and seeing, one, what is the easiest way I can really do it. And I think there are some really good certification programs out there that can offset a bachelor's program where you really learn the essential skills that you need. One, you eliminate the student loans that you would pay that would, that way for 2 years later, if you're meeting with JJ trying to buy a house, your DTI looks good. And you also meet your expectations. So for instance, if instead of going and pursuing a bachelor's degree in maybe like project management, or could you get a certification in that? What the certification will do, it's a 1-year program that would potentially give you an essential skills. One, you can get to practice on it on an entry level, see if you really like it, and then go on for it if you need further skills that you cannot obtain through work experience. Also, the return on investment is also important, because if I'm going to school, it's an investment. I'm putting in money in it and I'm expecting some sort of return. And unfortunately, the world doesn't work in a way that, so right now, if I get a master's degree and go back and say, hey, I got a master's degree, I doubt I'm going to get a few raises unless I move roles. But a master's degree could give me more skill that I need. I become more resourceful within my skill. But if I'm looking to make more money, I would have to move roles or move companies to get compensated on what I'm looking at. And so really understanding the strategy on why we're going to school, the strategy around it. Assessing the skills that we already have. Do we have enough skills? Is it time to go to work and practice? Then go back, get more education if we need to. If we're going to pursue a further degree like a master's program, why are we doing it? What is the strategy behind it? Is it to get promoted or to move or to shift companies, shift roles? etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And last thing I want to point out on there is like, I think you were touching on a little bit there is, you know, you're going to school, you're paying to go to school. You go into a skilled labor trade right there, you're getting paid to
Paid to.
learn, right?
There
You're
you
learning
go.
on the job, they're paying you to do so. And prioritize what you're doing because, and just using my son's example, he's making more money with this company now than if he would go do work for an electrical company, be a journeyman. But you're young. You don't necessarily need that money now.
Yeah.
They're paying you less, still good money, but paying you less because they're also providing you the education that you'll need that will last you. Prioritize what matters most. Education in that line of field for the trade is going to last you longer than that short-term money that you're doing with another company that you're going to be spinning your wheels in another 5-10 years maybe if you want to do something different, have to start all over. But,
Yeah. And you know what? I'll add this. We're talking about should you go to school, and everything that we said. Yeah, you want to go to school. I mean, there's the experience just from being on campus and figuring things out on your own. Getting the skills to get off into employment. You know, as I'm sitting here thinking, it's really my motivation comes from when I say, hey, we need to look at options and be more intentional. It might even be a bigger picture where, from a government perspective, the cost of education continues to grow. And when we get off into careers and fields, a lot of times that payoff isn't as big as the growth that, the cost of education has become. So again, that's my motivation for even saying what I'm saying, but something's going to have to get figured out, because if I decide, I'm going to pay all these thousands of dollars for college, but at the end of the day, my career field that I've chose, that's what I love, is still going to keep me in the hole. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So,
And I would also add on this, the feedback that we all gave, they're just our life experiences. There's a reward to education, and that reward can also come from the compensation that we talked about, the promotions that we talked about, career advancement that we talked about, the skills that we obtained. Those are my view. My open mind type of view in education would be go to education while you're aware of the cost aspect of it, the financial liability that comes with it, but also measure success. Because I know also for some communities, some groups, the people who pride themselves for being the first one to go to college, for achieving that milestone, and that could also mean something to someone by just achieving that. So whatever reward you get from achieving that degree and it makes you whole, pursue it. If you're okay with the financial liability, that is totally, totally okay. The economist, the minimalist side of me would only say just be mindful on the cost aspect of it. But if the reward outweighs the success that means everything to you in terms of what that means when you get that bachelor's degree, get it. Because there's a lot of hard work with it. I have friends who went to school and they've obtained really good networks. And they're using those networks today, right? Like, let's take a look, for instance, I met someone who is a professor and went to Morehouse College, right? He went to Morehouse College, and when he went there, he had people who looked like him. He had teachers who looked like him, who taught him skills, and he gave him a view of what a role model that he couldn't see in his own community. So him going to Morehouse College opened up his mindset. He was with people who looked like him, who encouraged him. He had teachers who inspired him to become better. And then when he left and started working in his company in DC, he's utilizing those networks. And when they meet now as adults, he's really networking with brothers that he's met and things of that nature. So I would say there's rewards that comes in all aspects. There could be a personal reward that comes in for that attainment of walking in and getting bachelor's degrees. I've seen where parents stand and shout at graduations because, their first child or their last born really reach a milestone that no one in their lineage does. And so that small pressure, and I'm relating to it in a major way. That small pressure can also outweigh the reward, right? Because the reward can outweigh that pressure because it means something and it makes you whole. So I would say whatever your intent, one's intent of going to college is, whether it's Achieving a skill is the reward. If it costs you $1 million and there's still a better person, still go for it.
So wrapping up kind of our conversation today for the young folks out there, college doesn't have to be the decision. There is other options on there, but ultimately the advice that I would leave you with is that, start thinking sooner or later about what you want to do. So there is some sort of direction, right? When you're in high school, nobody really wants to think about that, but they don't understand how quickly time comes at us, right? You think you have forever to figure this stuff out. Next thing you know, you've just wasted 2, 3, 4 years. All your friends just graduated from college and may have a direction, and you're still trying to figure out what you want to do. Start thinking about it because life hits you fast.
That's true.
If college isn't your thing, look into the skilled trades. There's always options out there for a good career. You just have to start thinking about and figuring it out.
All right.
Yep. JJ, anything in the community you want to leave us with today?
Nothing at this moment that jumps out at me. Hey, my basketball camp is next week, 21st to 23rd. Reach out to me, get you signed up. Any young person, 8th grade on down.
Awesome. Sure, it'll be great. So thank you for joining us today. We'll be back first week of August. Until then, we are Our Neutral Voices. Peace.